Hi, how's it going? How are we all doing today? Now, it's no secret, when I started the old channel, most of my content was just me as a Pyromancer invader, and I've tried a lot of different setups, and I eventually settled on doing some free aim stuff. And when you do a lot of free aim stuff, you kind of realise that you need a melee backup. So eventually I tried out stuff like an infused S-stock, an infused straight sword, an infused curved sword, but in the end I did actually settle on a mixture of both when it came to invasions. I would use either a dark infused curved sword, which I could then two-hand, but again this felt more of just a dark build than a Pyromancer build, or even a straight sword, which although it wasn't as effective in melee, it was still absolutely fantastic because one-handed straight sword has the best one-handed moveset in the game. It's only beaten by a two-handed curved sword, and with the free aim Pyromancer I did quite well in invasions. Now, on the other schools of magic, I'm wondering how you think this ties into the video, I was never exactly a fan of the strategies that actually worked. I thought healing was a bit of a gimmick, it was just too slow, and this was before we got projectiles, so it wasn't exactly a viable option, and the offensive lightning spells were terrible. And when it came to sorcery, there was only really one playstyle that was effective, which was made popular by one mage from GameFAQs, and it was a PC player who was once featured in a tournament, but I don't know how much he did, and that was pretty much exactly the same way I played the Pyromancer, except for they used an infused straight sword, and they would use homing soul mass, not crystal version, the regular version, because it is a much faster cast. So essentially they would cast it, run away, use the R1 if people got close, and it became something known as runaway soul mass, which was essentially the magic meta. Now, this style never appealed to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like running away from it. I know a lot of people who play the style get very offended when you say all they do is run the entire match, but that's literally all they do. They just run the entire match. It's a legitimate playstyle, and a lot of people don't know how to counter it. And one of the few good ways to do it is actually with the weapon I've got in my hand here, which is the crossbow. Now, there is one style of mage that does incorporate that I actually really do enjoy, which is the Heysel Pick. Yes, I know it's no big reveal, seeing as if you've probably already seen the title of the video, but I actually really enjoy the Heysel Pick. Recently people have started discovering that the hammer moveset isn't actually that bad, and the hyper armor can be very useful. Combine that with the whole runaway mage style, it's actually really useful, and you can true combo the R1 into Soul Greatsword Old Moonlight. I would use Old Moonlight, but I don't have it, so let's get that out of the way. So let's have a quick look at this build, shall we? Now, I am using a 125 build with Prisoner's Chain, which is why I've got Saintry Bellvine on my pocket there. So with the Saintry Bellvine, I've got 40 Vigor, 24 Attunement, 30 Endurance, 21 Vitality, 26 Strength, 12 Dex, and 60 Intelligence. I am on a Knight starting class because the Strength and the Vitality. So if we look, the Heysel Pick has 484 AR this way. My defenses are 27, 21, 29, 25. Magic is -5. But against another mage, it would obviously switch to the old Sage's Blindfold, so that way I actually have 22 magic defense, 23 fire, 21 lightning, and 23 dark. Now, flat defenses against dark are very low. Like, you take a lot of damage from dark builds, and being that that's the meta right now, you have to be wary when you do play them. So the spell setups I've got here is on my default up, so if I hold up, like, my first spell is Soul Greatsword. You go R1, you hit that R2, you need to press the R2 whilst the first R1's still going for you to queue it to be able to true combo. You can also do it one-handed, and of course the hyper arm means it's great for trades. Of course, the bread and butter of the build is Soul Mass. You pretty much cast this and you don't do anything. Keep away from your opponent, make them walk into you, and then you can roll and turn into them, they get hit by it, or if you turn just so they go to swing, it will stun them long enough to then obviously go for the R1 into the Soul Greatsword, and it will true combo everything for around 1000 damage. I also use Soul Great Arrow because it can punish pretty much every other cast of every other school of magic and safely then roll, and Great Fire and Dart finishing. A lot of people like to use Fire and Hail and use that for free aiming, but that's bitten me in the butt a lot of times. It is very easy to circle backstab that, and if you know how to roll the timings through it, which I have done many times, you can literally just roll straight through it and hit the caster. So you've got to be wary of that, and that's why I choose Great Fire and Dart, and it's because it's also a very good finisher. So that's the build. The playstyle I'm going to show you as we go into it. I've got enough poise, like I think you only need 33 point something poise to be able to always tank Class B weapons. But on this build, I've got more poise than I need. Basically, the only reason I've got 37 poise is actually I wanted more defenses. So I've got the Gundar's Chest, Wing Knight Gauntlets, and Lapsed Leggings, along with the Crown of Dust, which I can also swap to the old Sage's Blindfold. I also have a backup crossbow because I had extra weight, and the reason for this is it's just a great finish. Shoot the floor near their feet as they're rolling around. easy kills, easy stuff. And yes, with Seep Tree Bellvine, we don't need any extra dex. It's actually fast enough to combo all my spells. And even if it only acts as a normal Sage's Ring, not a Sage's +2, spell speed doesn't really suffer that much. So you just be careful if you're playing another sorcerer who's also using Great Soul Arrow. But besides that, don't worry. So let's see what I can do in some duels, and let's maybe talk us through them. Now, these duels aren't being done with live commentary because unfortunately having a little BB in the house, it's pretty hard to actually get the time to both play and be able to record with noise. I have to wait till they're out, and again, that doesn't give me that much time at all. Starting off with a spear here, these duels are not in consecutive order. The reason that I'm playing against a guy with a spear and putting that clip first is because people like to say spears and just running attacks, sort of like katanas, hard counter this. And yes, they are effective because they stop you casting, but hyper armor. Hyper armor, hyper armor, hyper armor. Yes, a spear can outreach me, but if they don't keep on me, I will get that soul mass up very quickly, as you can see here, and it is then very hard for my opponent to come in on me when I can keep them at bay with spells, and if they get too close, they're going to trade like that. So it's not exactly a hard counter like a lot of people think. Now, yes, crossbows do counter this build quite effectively, because every time you go to cast, if he can shoot a crossbow at your feet, then you're going to take some damage. But it's not perfect, because obviously you can set up your spells when they use the crossbow, and the crossbows themselves are pretty easy to avoid. If your opponent shoots first, you can then just roll and hit them with the spell. If you get in close, you can obviously trade with their light weapon, unless they have a hyper armor weapon. But if they have a hyper armor weapon, they're never exactly going to hit you if you're just reactive rolling. So as you can see here, my opponent's pretty much mostly on the defensive. Like, I don't really need to worry. The hammer itself with 13 joints can only swing 5 times, but you don't ever want to be R1 mashing because it's very easy to roll around. You're going to run out of stamina and your opponent's going to get you. But as you can see here, my opponent can't really pressure me. He's not exactly that good with a crossbow, so he isn't the prime example of showing it. And I even make a mistake there. I preload the Soul Greatsword thinking I was going to hit when obviously I wasn't. But here, even in this scenario, he knows if he shoots first I can catch him, and I can just turn whenever I feel like to try and catch him off guard. So look, he's just reloaded his crossbow, and I can wait. Unfortunately, he doesn't see it coming. So anyway, let's get into some regular duels, and let's talk about this build. As you can see, my actual gender of my character switches, because I did originally try this as a sorcerer first, and my sorcerer is a woman, and the stat distribution was nowhere near as good. I actually couldn't get the strength up as high. So yeah, against my opponent here, I can set up the spells and take the trades. Now, against all sorceries are very easy to roll, but the trick here is to make them go for an attack and then turn and catch them with the soul mass. A little bit of bad R1 spam there, but that's when I was still getting a feel for the build. But my opponent comes in, and obviously I can just trade. Like, I don't need to worry about melee at all. Now, my opponent here coming in with the Frida's Scythe. So he's got a magic weapon, I've got a magic weapon. And the thing is, unless he keeps on me, I can just keep setting up spells and doing the same old thing. Now, my opponent here is getting very defensive. As you can see, he has absolutely no idea how to get engaged or come in on me. He switches to a regen shield. I realise he's got magic himself, so I switch up to the helmet, which is probably very good, because I just took a big hit there. So I have 40% defense against it than I would have done. But you don't ever want to stand still and get caught by that. That was very bad on my behalf. So yeah, my opponent does not want to engage me. Like, every time I go near him, I think he then just runs off. Yep, he's gone. Yep, gone. So I'm not going to waste your time and waiting for all this time, because I don't think I actually catch him. It ends in a draw because all he does is run. So we're going to cut this clip and move on to the next one. So yeah, one of the ways to counter this in a way is to just run away and run the clock, which this is one of the few maps you can actually do that. Now I'm playing against a Pyromancer here, and he's trying to do the exact same build I am, but instead of homing soul mass, he uses these little fireball things, which are very easy to avoid and walk around. They're not that good. Now I can punish his casts, he can't punish my casts. I am using a little bit cheeky using the environment to get that set up, but he's the one not pressuring even though he has a curved sword, so it's not my fault if he doesn't know how to play his class. So yep, just putting on the range pressure. He's not applying any casts, and he tries to buff there. Takes another little chip. These spells, actually, those fireball things, you can actually walk around it. You don't even need to roll. It'd be useful if I didn't just walk into those two there, but there it is. Now, I'm using just a small little chippy spells. He goes for a drink, and I punish it. GG. Now, this guy's got a spear. Bit of a meme weapon, but spears can be useful. The running pokes on it, the thrust, and the reach is still better than the hammer. Because one of the weaknesses of the hammer is actually its very bad reach and tracking. But, as you can see there, Soul Mass can be comboed into Great Soul Arrow. For some reason, it doesn't seem to true combo of Old Moonlight. I've seen someone set it up perfectly, and they've hit him with the Soul Mass, and Old Moonlight just doesn't seem to damage them when it hits them. Don't know if that was a bug or if it ever got addressed, but I'm just using Soul Great Arrow. Now, this opponent using a straight sword and a regen build, so typical turtle build, he's very good at the way he moved around the Soul Mass, but then he didn't apply any pressure after basically making me waste the cast. So I can just turn and set it up very easily. Goes for running attack, gets punished on the roll. Again, set it up again. Very slowly firing my spells, setting up again. I can now safely drink Estus, because as long as that's up, all I have to do is turn to attack. So I can drink my Ashen Flask perfectly safe. So yeah, if you're doing this build for invasions, you have to remember that it's not going to be as effective because no Soul Spear. But what I would do in invasions is I'd probably swap Farron Dart for Crystal Soul Spear. And unfortunately the pot split is very annoying, so if you're using this at Pontiff, make sure you're the guy summoning. He seems to be just blocking and taking some crazy chip damage. I think he's realised that he's gonna lose unless he has some form of aggression. So he's trying to regen. Regen's actually a perfectly good way to counter this, but if you're taking too much chip damage too quickly like he's doing, regen's not going to save you. Which makes this build pretty good for tournaments actually. So he finally shows up some aggression there. I take 2 R1s. Looks like he was using a flame-based weapon. That might actually be Ring Knight's straight sword. Alright, so this guy trying to throw some things at me. Hilariously, throwing knives and bombs you can actually counter very easily. The moment you see them start to throw it, if you turn, you'll actually punish them before they get you with it. Using the old Greatsword running attacks, they're actually pretty easy to outspace and then punish. Like, the Heart Armor startup is quite late on a Greatsword's running attack, so if you get in early enough, you'll punish it. And if you get in, like, just outspacing it there, as you saw, or even when my opponent rolls to try and close the distance, I'm not going to take those trade R1s, because obviously that's the Gale, so he'll probably be able to do nearly 1,000 from one combo. He swaps to a Katana, worst mistake he ever made, starts panic rolling around me, gets cool. Okay, do the old backstep switch thing. Guy was bowing and I turned and shot him. Bit cheesy, I know, but I can't feel bad for it, because that sound you're about to hear, that little boom in the distance, that was him running away to use Project Heal. So he's just used Project Heal a couple of times to come back and outfight me. Now he's trying Lightning Arrow. Lightning Arrow, incredibly easy to punish with Soul Mass. What you do is, the second they fire, you roll towards them, and because of how quickly Lightning Arrow trades, it won't damage you, but the Soul Mass will hit them for full damage before they can roll after firing. Which means they fire, you do damage to them. They don't fire, you just stand there. So again, passive game. See, look, I just roll for his attack, he gets cool. He tries to do the ground things, he thinks I'm going to move in on him. But what he then decides is, he can't take me, so he's going to try and run off and heal up again. But that's what we have Great Soul Arrow for. So he's gone around this corner, and there he is, Project Healing. So I hit him with the Soul Arrow, which is the comboed off the homing Soul Mass, and he's now trying to run. So I'm using obviously my Farron Dart to get in some little chip damage, and he's going up here to try and heal again. It doesn't work. And a point down for running away to heal several times. Now I am fighting a parry king here. Obviously he's got the cases out of the Katana. His plan is to go for running attacks and then parry. Unfortunately, a strategy that's not exactly going to work on a caster. So he's being smart, he's getting close, trying to make me turn, and then rolling around it. But because he's rolling so much and not really reacting rolling, he's just rolling at me thinking, oh, if I'm just always in no frames, I'll never get hit by a spell, I can then hit him with the R1s. And as you can see there, even though he threw Chaos Bed Vestiges before I started casting, I was able to roll through it and not take damage. Made the mistake of rolling early that time and rolled into it, but I was still able to smoosh him. Guy trying a Great Hammer. Don't know how he expects to win with that, but okay. The only real good one is Lido's, and that's because of the weapon art, where if you catch him with the second part of the weapon art and it combos into R2, you'll pretty much one-shot most squishy caster builds. But yeah, you can just walk around that running attacks, and as you see there, massive punishing, very easy. Okay, so the build that we're on now is actually the one that I showed you at the start, which is the more optimized damage one that's obviously got the same armor setup. So yeah, this guy using hyper armor, trying to find a good chance to come in at me. No, that's not the way you do it. I didn't turn quick enough there, so obviously he's just going for his running attacks. He doesn't think I can punish him. But we're going to show him that he is wrong on that. Now that was very risky what I did there. I went for the Soul Greatsword when I didn't combo the R1, which I really shouldn't have, but I got lucky and I was able to punish his swing. That was just the wrong spell use there. Don't think anything of that. So yeah, this guy is now getting close to me. I know I can reactive roll any of his R1s and outspace them. It is pretty easy to do. It's going to be very hard for him to actually get in any damage on me because all ultras are pretty bad for 1v1s. They might have some uses in invasions when you've got 3 PvE opponents who don't know how to PvP, but in this situation here, it's never going to work. Those running attacks you can punish quite easily just by rolling into them and using Soul Arrow. He switches over to an axe, which has terrible running attacks, but pretty good R1s. But he eats 2 R1s myself, which I can safely go for because of the height. This next boyo here has got himself a quick step weapon with Dark Moonblade. That's actually something you have to be very wary of because I'm using magic setup, so I got clipped there and I took quite a bit of damage. But what I've done now is I've swapped weapons and... well, it's not weapons, sorry. I swapped my helmets. So I'm going to do slightly less magic damage, but I've got both damaging rings, so it's not like I'm losing that much. I think it's only 5% on the weapon, 10% on the spells. But he's now running off to try and heal. It doesn't use the poise cast, so he gets punished. Panic rolls into an R1. Easy trades. Easy trades. Point down for trying to run away to heal. Remember kids, it's not your job to not heal on your opponent, but it is your job to make sure your opponent can't heal on you. And I made sure he couldn't. So we've got someone here who's also trying another lightning arrow build. As you can see there, he goes for his attacks. I could just roll into him. He's going to have to roll here, and if he doesn't, he's going to take a little bit of chip damage. So lightning arrow, very easy to counter as a mage because my spells are still faster. Like, if he fires, I can punish him. Now, this guy has run off to start healing, but I catch him with some R1s. Catch him with a third R1. And the problem is projectile may be fast, but it doesn't actually heal that much since they nerfed it. So it's not exactly something you have to worry about. This guy's now panicking and trying to run away from me. Anyone who says that lightning arrow hard counters soul masses, no, it doesn't. So as you can see, I can quickly buff and get up homing soul mass very quickly at the start there, which is why we don't use the crystal version. Now this opponent is very defensive and he's quite smart. He's trying not to go for it, but unfortunately I think he stopped to maybe switch something, and he's coming at me with the S-Stock. He tries to go in for rolling attacks, but S-Stock's tracking and its rolling attacks, they're just not that good. As you can see, I can just move around him and smack him about. Yeah, the tracking is pretty bad on rapiers. Now, my opponent here is playing the pillar game, so he thinks that I'm going to chase him around the pillar so he can then R1 mash me. But the thing is, I don't care if I lose or draw, and I don't exactly need to walk into a draw. Now, this guy, again, using an S-Stock, his running attack, I was able to walk around and then hit him, because all you have to do to avoid an S-Stock is either run past them or walk past them, depending on the distance when they use it. It's very easy to counter. Even some of the better S-Stock users, out of 5 duels, have only beaten me once, I think, which was Sunlight Wings, who won 1 in 5. And again, he won that first one, because I obviously wasn't prepared for his crossbow, but that's something I mixed up myself. This guy's a guy who recently plug pulled on me and then tried to set me up as the guy who did it. Don't know what he was memeing there, but yeah. Walked at him and he tried to apply a second buff, punished it. It's not as good as my Pyromancer build where I can do like 1200 damage on a punish, but still pretty good. As you can see there, late roll into his running attack and he went for a kick for some reason, which I then R1'd. Alright, so we got ourselves a Parry King Straight Sword guy. At least he's good. So he's smart, manages to roll around my attack. I make the mistake of going for 2 R1s rather than 1. But he then goes for running attack, which I then set up and trade. He then panic rolls, which I then hit with another R1, and then I back up to get my stamina. Because obviously you don't want to stay in that close whilst you're trying to recover stamina, because you don't actually have that many R1s on this build. As you can see there, I went for an R1 I shouldn't have. I was out of stamina, and then he went for a very obvious and telegraphed attack, which I couldn't punish. He tried the same thing again, but this time I had stamina, so R1, so great sword. Alright, another person trying a hyper armor weapon. This does not counter me. Not one bit. Obviously, I can't R1 trade with him, and because the hammers are slightly slow, he can kind of reaction trade with me. But again, he's going for his soul arrow there, not soul arrow, lightning arrow, which I can very easily punish, makes a couple of panic rolls, catch them with the R1s. Simple stuff to do. So we got some guys got his flaming katanas. So yep, rolls at me to try and close distance. I turn and catch his roll with the Soul Mash, which then allows me to true combo the R1 and Soul Greatsword. 3-hit true combos. So we got ourselves another guy. Now every time I see that shield, I think they're a parry king or someone who's going to try and backstab fish me, because that's normally what that... Yeah, everyone uses Lily One shield, that's kind of what they all do. This guy basically has a straight sword. Pretty good one-handed moveset, but he needs to know how to move in on me. Without a crossbow, he can't really apply that much pressure. So what I do is I wait till the last second, I walk into him, and then I roll his attacks. Ooh, but it's actually the Lothric one. Now that weapon art is very good at punching me. However, he didn't exactly have the most health, and as you saw, I just did 800 from 2 R1s. Another guy here who's trying an ultra weapon. Not the best weapon. He actually swapped from a straight sword at the start of this, which he should have kept, because as you can see there, I can very easily just walk out space there. So he's playing smart by being defensive, but at the same time, he's not exactly going to be damaging me that way. So what I do here is I decide that in order to do this, I'm going to have to be the aggressive one. So I combo the Soul Mass into Great Soul Arrow, start applying a little bit of pressure there, bait out some R1s, and then R1 Soul Great Sword Punch. Very easy stuff to do if you know your spacing, and then just walk around as rolling, attacking him with a great Farron Dart. Alright, so this guy, trying to roll around me, catches rolls as he goes through the Soul Mass, which is why that's very useful. Catches me from some very good distance there, and take an R1 trade, R1 Soul Great Sword. Are you watching the pattern? Are you seeing how easy it is to do this? Most people in the arena, you're going to beat very easily. It's only hard to use this setup against incredibly passive opponents. Like any good curved sword user or straight sword turtle who's worth their soul will actually counter this build very easily, to the point where the magic stuff should never hit them. But because of the hyper armor, it's still going to be a very difficult game for them here. As you can see, this guy does apply some pressure pretty well, and he does manage to get some hits on me, but unfortunately I have a lot more burst damage than he does. Now this guy, again, using a big hyper armor weapon, you can see him trying to bait out my attacks like I'm an idiot. Like, steps in, steps out, steps in, steps out. But I catch his pattern, and then... Did you see the amount of damage I did there when he stopped doing his little cheeky dance? So yeah, he tries to go for his rolling attack. 100% confident I could interrupt it, and I did. You know, I love the way people circle and run to try and get in on you here, and then when it fails and then they just take that big almost 900 damage and they're like, well, and you're like, yeah, I am that good. So this guy, he basically starts panic rolling into me, and I just stand there watching him roll into me, and then I hit him with 2 R1s and down he goes. Down he goes. Okay, so this guy, again, very passive guy, but he's good with his katana running attack. So basically what he's doing is he's looking for his openings to then apply pressure. He actually manages to switch from being passive to being aggressive, gets in those R1s there, takes some hits, but he gets a little bit, yeah, he makes some mistakes with trying to roll out there. Rolls the home soul mass, but I then catch him with the R1. Tries coming in with me with running attack, misses his R1, and I knew he was going to set up trying to parry me. However, I didn't win every single game there. I did make one mistake against another mage, and then he caught me with one Crystal Soul Spit, and he just ran away and blasted me like that. I did 10 drills with Germanic to test it, but I'll just include a little clip of that. Oh, I mistimed it. I knew you were going to do the running attack. To be fair though, if it wasn't for the regen, I wouldn't have to worry about anything.
True, but like, I need my like something's ring and whatnot.
Oh,
that's
damn
fine,
trade.
I can trade. Nice running attack, man.
No! Yeah!
Yeah, the Windra!